The Tarlac were not subtle in their violence. They never had to be. For centuries, their empire expanded by tearing the weaker from their homes, stripping planets to bone and stone, and branding survivors with the shame of subjugation. When their fleets found the human colony of Reese Prime, they saw nothing but another prize. The colony was young, its cities new and gleaming, its people unarmed and filled with naive hope. To the Tarlac, it was nothing more than a ripe fruit left unguarded in the orchard of the stars. They descended with fire. Orbital batteries carved the sky into molten rivers, and the soil turned black beneath their bombardments. Civilians screamed into comm channels that would never carry their voices beyond the void. Towers collapsed. Oceans boiled. The Tarlac commander stood aboard his flagship, watching the planet's surface burn. To him, this was theater. Humans, he believed, were too far from their ancient homeworld to mount any serious resistance. His soldiers laughed as they broadcast mockery across every human frequency they could intercept. Your Earth is dust in the making. Your people are fragile, unworthy of space. Remember our gift of fire, for it is the only legacy you are fit to inherit. By dawn, Reese Prime was ash. The Tarlac fleet withdrew, leaving their mark scorched into a world that would never forget it. And they waited for a reply. They expected cries for peace. They expected apologies. They expected surrender. The arrogance of victory news spread like wildfire. Across neutral stations and border worlds, the Tarlac broadcast footage of their conquest, splicing images of burning cities with jeers at human weakness. They replayed the screams of survivors as entertainment in their pleasure halls. To them, humanity was little more than a curiosity. A species that had climbed into the stars too quickly, too timid to wield real strength, too idealistic to understand the cruelty of empire. The galaxy, watching, quietly agreed. Humans had spoken often of cooperation, of diplomacy, of building peace between species. They had avoided wars even when insulted. They had stood apart, patient, silent, refusing to bare teeth. The Tarlac mistook that silence for fear. In their courts and war councils, they spoke of humanity as prey. They have no stomach for vengeance, one Tarlac lord said. They will sue for peace, and if they do not, we will crush another of their colonies, and another, until they learn submission. The other empires nodded, some in relief. If the humans bent the knee, it would prove what many had suspected, that Earth was not a rising power, but merely another voice to ignore. So they laughed. They drank. They celebrated. They mocked. The gathering storm, but Earth heard. For weeks, no human official spoke. No message was broadcast. No ambassador addressed the Galactic Council. Silence stretched across the void, and it unsettled those who listened closely. Behind that silence, the machinery of war turned, deep in the black between stars. Shipyards that had slumbered since the end of Earth's last great war lit up with furious industry. Dreadnoughts, vessels spoken of only in rumor, emerged from their cradles with armor like mountain stone and weapons designed never to miss. Fleets that had been hidden under the guise of exploration, quietly rearmed, their hulls bristling with firepower. Human officers spoke to one another in tones colder than the void. They did not shout for vengeance. They did not weep for Reese Prime. They simply prepared. When the first human fleet deployed, it did so without announcement. Its ships slid from orbit with the silence of knives unsheathed in a darkened room. Across the colonies, men and women were conscripted, and they came willingly, eyes hard with a new kind of resolve. The galaxy began to whisper, "Earth is moving." Still the Tarlac jeered. Still they believed. But humanity had always been underestimated. For all their history, they had been seen as fragile, small, petty, prone to violence but unworthy of fear. What no one understood was that silence had been their training ground. Patience had been their greatest weapon, and now patience was over. The silence breaks. The first sign was not a battle, but a voice. It cut across every Tarlac frequency in the middle of their victory broadcasts, cold and sharp as a blade. A human voice, unhurried, unshaken. "This is Earth Command. You took Reese Prime. You slaughtered our children and mocked our grief. You will not speak again. You will not laugh again. You will not stand again." Then silence returned. Moments later, the stars themselves changed. Tarlac border outposts vanished in flashes brighter than suns. Supply convoys disappeared into fields of wreckage. Entire fleets went dark, their comms nothing but static. Reports flooded in, not of battle but of annihilation. The humans did not advance like an army. They descended like a judgment. No demands, no parley, no warning. The weight of vengeance. When the Tarlac finally saw them, The sight silenced even their most arrogant lords. Human fleets filled the void. So many ships that they blotted constellations from view. Their dreadnoughts dwarfed anything the Tarlac had built. Titans wrapped in steel and fury. Their fighters swarmed like locusts, too many to count, moving with deadly precision. The first clash lasted less than an hour. Tarlac admirals had prepared for a contest of equals, for human hesitation, for restraint. What they met instead was overwhelming fire. Human weapons tore through their shields as if they were mist. Orbital cannons pierced entire formations in single volleys. Where the Tarlac had bombarded cities for spectacle, humans targeted command ships with surgical strikes, erasing leadership in the first minutes of battle. They cut arteries, shattered supply lines, and dismantled strategy with the calm efficiency of surgeons. It was not war, it was extermination. Tarlac soldiers, long trained to expect pleas for mercy, found none. Human marines boarded ships in silence, armored giants whose visors reflected fire. They said nothing. They left no survivors. Across world after world, the same pattern unfolded. Human silence followed by human fire. Planets that had laughed at Earth's restraint now watched in horror as Tarlac colonies were erased, their fortresses leveled, their skies filled with burning wreckage. For the first time in their history, the Tarlac fled. Fire upon the throne. The heart of the Tarlac Empire, their jewel world Koresh, had never known invasion. Its skies had always been guarded by the greatest armadas, its ground protected by walls thought unbreakable. No enemy had ever dared to approach, but when the humans came, the sky turned black. Hundreds of ships fell into orbit, their engines roaring like thunder. The dreadnought Wrath of Reese led the charge, its hull inscribed with the names of the dead. The Tarlac Emperor himself watched from his palace spire as the heavens ignited. Human ships descended, blotting out the sun. Their weapons struck not randomly but with precise, pitiless intent. Defense stations shattered, shield grids collapsed, entire continents burned. Then the Marines came. They landed in waves, not with fanfare, but with the stillness of executioners. Streets became rivers of fire. Resistance broke in hours. At last, human soldiers marched into the imperial palace. They found the emperor waiting on his throne, still clinging to the arrogance of his reign. He demanded to parley. He demanded to mock. But the humans said nothing. Their commander raised his weapon, and the throne room was silenced. The aftermath of silence. The Tarlac Empire ended not with a treaty, not with surrender, but with absence. Their fleets were gone. Their worlds burned. Their rulers dead. What remained were whispers. On distant stations, smugglers spoke in hushed tones. The humans don't warn. They don't bargain. They end you. On neutral worlds, traitors shuddered. They were patient for centuries. Then they struck, and nothing survived. And among the survivors of conquered Tarlac colonies, fear became law. Do not speak their name. Do not provoke their wrath, for silence walks with them, and death follows. Humanity did not boast. They did not gloat. Their fleets withdrew as swiftly as they had come, leaving only ruin behind. Where once the galaxy had mocked Earth as weak, now it whispered another truth. Humanity's patience is vast, but their vengeance is infinite. Epilogue. The Lessenreese Prime was dead, but its memory lived, etched into the steel of ships and the resolve of a species. The galaxy had seen what came of mocking humanity, of confusing silence with fear, of mistaking mercy for weakness. No one laughed now. No one mocked. And in the quiet that followed, the galaxy understood the truth of it. Our silence had not been fear. Our silence had not been surrender. Our silence had been the sharpening of knives, the building of fire, the gathering of storms. Our silence had prepared death for those who mocked humanity, and death had answered.